My belief is so strong about, oh, we will never know it all. We will never evolve to the point where, oh, we are continually learning and we become students. And the animals are these fabulous teachers.
My guest today is a teacher, animal communicator, intuitive healer, and the author of four award-winning books. For almost 3 decades, she has been exploring the deeper intelligence of animal-human bond and the many ways in which animals accompany us, reflect us, and support our healing. Her work weaves together spirituality, emotional healing, and animal-human consciousness, helping people recognize animals not only as beloved companions, but as wise teachers and partners in our soul's journey. It is my honor and great joy to welcome Tammy Billups to Whispers of the Soul. Welcome, Tammy.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation and to be here. I'm so looking forward to our conversation, Sharka.
Oh, me too, me too. Tammy, you've been doing this work for almost 3 decades now. What has kept you inspired all these years? And what is it that you still find most fascinating about it?
Hmm. Well, the animals inspire me. I do because I feel their momentum, I feel their support helping me through my journey and to the next creative project or to the next teaching or to the next level of what they're trying to help humanity with. And so I think that connection to the animal kingdom um, is probably what guides me to continue moving forward in this manner. I love what I do. I love this. I call it my third season of life because it's my third career. I had two very corporate type careers before this. And so once I started doing this, it just, it's fabulous. What do I find most fascinating? I just remember the second part of your question. Um, just the unknown. I'm always amazed when something new comes through during a tandem session or a new idea downloads or a new level of consciousness or new level of awareness comes through in a manner that can help others to have less suffering in some manner. So I'm fascinated because my belief is so strong about, oh, we will never know it all. We will never evolve to the point where, oh, we are continually learning and we become students, and the animals are these fabulous teachers, and I'm so grateful to be partnering with them in the manner that I am, that you are, that so many people are. I'm so excited about so many people now that are taking this journey to partner with animals to help humanity to evolve. That's what the animal kingdom wants.
Yeah. I know that you originally worked with human healing before you dedicated yourself to animals. What did animals teach you that people never could? And how did they change the way you understand healing itself?
Oh, that's such a great question. Let me take a deep breath into this. Well, animals taught me that it can be easier
Mm.
than what we think because humans are much more attached to their stuff and they have all of this protection in place.
Mm.
And so they have trust issues and all these things because of their traumas, of course, and because of the experiences that I believe their soul chose for them to have so that they could get to the point where they're awakening. But the animals have enlightened me that there can be an easier way, that there's an easier path to the heart, to revealing the divine essence, and that it can be safe to do so. And they're really showing up for people in that way to help them feel safe, to reveal their truest self, and to relinquish the patterns and the coping mechanisms that we put in place for good reason way back when, but they've expired. They're obsolete, like our first cell phone. And yet we, so many times, so much of the time, people don't know how to do it, don't know, well, how do I get rid of that pattern? How do I do? Well, the animals kind of come in and really awaken people. I know many more animal communicators than not that have said, I became an animal communicator because of my animal. It wasn't on the radar. And all of a sudden I had this awakening process trying to help them heal and trying alternative things and trying this and that. And all of a sudden now I realize my gifts of being an animal communicator or whatever practitioner it is. So they're showing us an easier way. And I still believe that what I do is helping people heal. It's just that through the animal kingdom, I am partnering with the animal kingdom to help humans heal.
Yeah. It brings me to your latest book that calls Your Animal, Your Soul Mirror, that explores the topic of healing through mirroring. You touched a little bit now in your answer. What exactly are animals reflecting back to us?
Oh, they're reflecting a lot. They're reflecting it. Well, now I have to preface by saying that the more enmeshed that you are with your animal, um, the more you allow them in your heart more, and you really rely on them for that safe partnership, then the more often there's going to be this mirroring that happens. So people that are very detached, that, an animal's an animal and they're taking them on walks, but they're not all emotionally invested with their animal and attached to them in ways that many of us are, they're not going to have as many mirroring things. They're going to have some, but it's going to be a different type of relationship. But for those who have at a soul level chosen to partner with animals to heal together, then they're going to show up in many different ways. I mean, and a lot of the times they are going to be revealing to us what we've repressed more than what we're releasing. So much of the time people will say, oh, when I cry, I try to go in the other room because I don't want my animal to feel that. They're cheering you on when you're releasing your emotions in healthy ways. And then they're going to be showing you kind of more about what you're repressing. So as an example, if you're someone who wasn't allowed to express your anger growing up and you learned to really repress it a lot, and your animal is going to be detecting that you've got anger that needs to clear, so it's going to trigger you. It's going to do some things that are, oh, she has anger that needs to be released, let me do this because she always gets angry when I do this, and that'll help her release. And so they'll be doing different things that are going to be helping us to reach our goals. That's how brave they are. They're like, oh, I can take it. Go ahead. I'll do this for them. And sometimes they will actually mirror our exact physical issues as well. And I see that time and time again. I saw that in my 30s before I awakened to this process, when I was much more left brain, always in my head. And my cats would always, if I got asthma, my cat would get asthma. If I got a UTI, my cat would get a UTI. And I know I can reflect now and look back and see where those things were happening. So because I knew it wasn't, I'm like, what? It just can't be a coincidence that this is happening. And it happened with me in particular so that I would see it, so that I would be able to recognize it to, of course, catapult me down the road that I'm on now. So the new book, Your Animal, Your Soul Mirror, is all about these 5 core emotional wounds and the different types of wounds, the deep work. So it would be how they are mirroring our abandonment, how they are mirroring our invasiveness, our betrayal, our terror, anything that goes back to our emotional wound patterns. It is a high chance, again, if you get really close emotionally to your animal, that they're mirroring your core emotional wounds. And guess what? You came together to heal them together. You have a soul path and an agenda to heal those things together. So that book really does go into the details of each one of those emotional wound profiles. and how to heal them and what to say to the animal and different things that you could do to help progress the healing and relinquishing of those worn out patterns that are probably creating havoc in your life and in their life until they're released.
Could you explore more on the five patterns of, let's say, survival or probably soul mirroring?
Yeah. Well, so let's give an example. A big one with a lot, especially dog people, is abandonment. There's a lot of separation anxiety, a lot of codependency, and I had codependency with my cat, so it's still prevalent with whatever you're wired for. It's going to show up in your animals. So if you look at your animal and it has lots of oral things, overeating, carrying around a toy, over licking, barking a lot, just very verbal, and then that unsatiable with their diet.
Mhm.
And then, of course, if they have any type of separation anxiety, the odds are really high that your animal was taken away from its birth mom too early or didn't get in, if there's a big litter, to get full and satiated in some way. And then they develop that feeling they never got full, they never got satiated. So they're always seeking externally. It's like it's not enough. I call abandonment not enough syndrome, not enough food, not enough time, not enough money, not enough love. So someone is always going externally to get filled. So the animal's doing that, thinking, I can't make it without them, because they don't know how to self-soothe, how to comfort, how to fill themselves until they're satiated, because they didn't get that. Well, it's the same with people. The odds are really high that the person, maybe there was something that happened with the birth mom, didn't get their needs met by their birth mom very early. And then it set up a pattern of abandonment where they were always seeking, always going outside to get filled. It's always the next friend, the next lover, the next whatever. And and they get high hopes, and then they put everything into it to get their needs met. And then but it's never really enough. If they're really in abandonment, if that's a big profile for them, it's never going to be enough. And so then they get, broken up with time and time again, or they get disappointed by a friend time and time again, because again, they're being led back to fill themselves. So when you come together with your animal, both at a soul level, you say, let's heal that. Let's heal this issue, this go round. And so once you do that consciously with them, your animal is almost like a host for your inner child that didn't get his or her needs met. And you're able to say things to your animal and do things with your animal to help them, versus look at them as, I don't know what I'd do without them. These are, I would be lost without them. I need them. I love coming back home in the reunions, and they look at me like, you're the best thing since sliced bread. They need all of that because you didn't get that. So it's really fascinating. With each one of the profiles, there's going to be different patterns and different things that are needed to heal those specific wounds. And it's a process, of course, but you catch yourself more and more and more, and your animal's this host for showing you what's up for you in any given moment in time. And once you really begin to trust and have faith that you're going to be okay no matter what, because your ego and the part of you that doesn't want you to go through what you went through when you were very young is very firm in there, protecting you. It's like, no, 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 you can't relinquish that. It's going to be too much for you. It's going to be too painful if you go there. No, 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 you can't. We can't do this. And trying to keep you safe. And our animal walks into our heart and says, I'm here with you. Let's do this together. And you begin to believe that it's possible. And the more you believe that, the easier and the faster the process goes.
It reminds me, my present dog, she calls love, and I keep telling that she shows me that love has many, many ways how to be expressed. Because at the beginning she was furious, and I didn't know what to do with her. And then I learned that I have to take her as she is. And
Yeah.
then I realized how great she is, because I believe that we kind of, and I'm sure you have the same experience where people come to you and say, oh, can you tell the animal not to do that? Or can you fix the animal? Can you whatever, you know? But once we start understanding the process of healing, we realize that the animal is beautiful and there is nothing we need to fix. What is your experience?
You know, in speaking into that example, I love that, because one of the things that animals will teach us is self-acceptance. And when we can accept others for where they are, how they are, who they are, what their preferences are, it's a sign that we're beginning to accept and love ourselves in a new way. So they're helping us do that, because that's a biggie. If we judge others, all judgment is self-judgment. All of that lack of acceptance for others is a lack of acceptance for all parts of ourselves, for the way that we're wired. And so I think that's a beautiful example to bring up. And I've seen that happen, especially with those who are very sensitive and empathic and are introverts, and they judge themselves because they think they're supposed to be more social, or they think they're too sensitive. And that's not the case. So a lot of times you get a sensitive animal that comes in, and maybe it's a kitty who wants to stay under the bed more, or doesn't want to be as social. And it's like, well, how can I make them more social? And people come over and they're under the bed, and it's like, it doesn't work to pull them out from under the bed and say, here, be more social.
Yeah.
Because they're showing us a part of ourselves that needs our acceptance, that we need to refuel, that we need to take more time, that everyone is wired differently. And I think that's one of the gifts that they offer us, is that to learn how to love ourselves for how we are wired. So thank you for bringing that up. And it seems like you had another part of the question, and I've forgotten that.
Oh, I don't know now as well, but never mind. You mentioned the separation anxiety, which is in these days very popular, and people keep saying, "Oh, my dog, when I leave." What I understand from your book and what you said, we can we can address it different way, and it's not only physical problem, but most probably emotional, and we people need to heal, not the animal, right? It mirrors something to us.
Yes, that's that abandonment that I mentioned. That's absolutely goes back to abandonment. And if you have an animal that has separation anxiety, you can bet that you have unhealed abandonment, talking to the whoever might be watching this. So yeah, so it's like looking at them and knowing that they're exhibiting a behavior that is guiding you to find ways to learn how lovable you are at your core, and that you are enough as you are, and that you can put in place self-love practices and begin to go within. And because when we do that, our animal gets a hit of whatever we're having. They're going to get the energy associated with it. And then you can begin to also simultaneously in those situations kind of minimize the reunions, and really give them more independent time. And what you want to do, instead of encouraging it's usually our inner child that really loves having our animal be all over us and say, oh my gosh, you're my favorite person ever. I can't do this without you. And the animals that they're serving, that's serving a purpose too. They're showing our child love in a manner that they weren't shown. But as we mature, and as we're ready for it, and as we begin healing that inner child who didn't get enough, we can begin to put in place different ways of being more independent, living independently, and seeing them as being strong and courageous, and really just instead of going, oh no, they need me, oh no, I remember one time, it's been a long time ago. It's my first it was my first aha moment around abandonment, because I was at a gathering and a woman had brought her little chihuahua and was holding him. And then she was trying to do something, and I said, "Well, just let me hold him, you know." And so she goes, "Okay." And then I held him, and then I took a few steps away, and he started growling. Yeah, all of a sudden he started baring his teeth at me, and then out of nowhere she comes in and she swoops up and she grabs him and she says, "Oh, he just does that because he can't bear to be away from me. It's so wonderful." And I thought, "Oh, that's interesting," because she was so enmeshed in the belief that she loved that he only wanted to be with her. So as she begins to heal her abandonment, then he's not going to be exhibiting that same, he's going to feel more confident in not having to kind of play into her needs as much, and he'll get that shift of energy when she learns to self-soothe. But that was the first time I thought, wow, she was so happy that he had growled at me that she could whisk in and get him. And so there's always, and it's okay. I mean, I had one cat who I was very codependent with, and I was awake at this, I had awakened into these beliefs. He lived until he was 18, and I tried to convert the relationship to more independent, and I was really unable to get it to the place where I thought I should be able to get it to. And I'm like, okay, the next time around, the next animals I get will be different. And that ended up happening. So months after both of those cats died, transitioned, I have two brothers not voting for me, and as you know, they're not in here all over me. And it's a very independent relationship. So give yourself the credit and permission to be okay with your inner child receiving this love, and simultaneously be giving your inner child what you get from your animal. Because if you could become dependent on it, receiving love externally, it's going to be really hard when these people aren't in your life. And so you want to learn to do what they're modeling, and see them as more independent in and of themselves. It's like, what? I got this. I'm stronger than you think. And thank you for your love. And I love you too. And I'll see you being calm and courageous and being on your own too, because that's the healthiest thing that I can do for you. That's my gift to you, is to let you know that you don't have to do that, that I got your message and I'm going to do my work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for these words, because I believe that it can be as easy. It doesn't necessarily need to be easy to go through the process, but it reminds me another story with my previous dog, that we were on travel and she started having diarrhea and temperature, and I kind of connected with her and realized, oh, it's kidneys, and start kind of realizing where I have troubles in my relationship. And of course, called to vet, made an appointment, all the stuff that's necessary to do on the physical level. But between the time we got home, I realized where I had my troubles. And she got like that, the temperature was gone. She started being again, because she started being a little bit apathic, and she started being again herself, and again, the taste for food, and she was, before we got to the vet, she was completely fine. I went there just to be sure that everything is okay. Was it just kind of like simply fortune coincidence, this kind of fast healing of obviously there was something wrong, because the diarrhea was pretty bad. She went every, I don't know, 10 minutes. Or do you believe that animals sometimes have, let's say, remarkable capacity to heal more quickly than we humans? Why do you think is?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, they do, because they're not as attached to their stuff. They're very familiar with the type of work that I do, the energy work, and to healing. They don't want to carry it around. More than not, they don't want to carry. I mean, there are some that I've seen, as I'm sure you have too, many really bad abuse cases, but a lot of the times with some of the shelter animals that I'll donate sessions to, that I always have, they want that, everybody comes up to their run where they're located in these shelters, and then they hear the story, and then everybody's vibration just goes, oh, they had this happen and they were stuck with this, and they start repeating the story, and it's such a low vibration. And when I connected the animal, they're like, I don't want them to talk about my story. I'm here. I'm in a much better place. I'm being fed and treated with love, and I want to move forward. And so while every animal's process is certainly unique with their timing as well, they absolutely tend to heal much faster because they're not as connected to their stuff. They're really ready to relinquish it and trust the process of healing, versus people who are, their patterns are so enmeshed to thinking that this is the way I am. They think their patterns are who they are, and they're not. They're just, it's like an over attachment to the patterns, and the patterns were developed to get their needs met. So they think this is the way I have to be to get my needs met on an unconscious level. And so it's really fascinating. People are so interesting, myself included. I like self-diagnose all the time. I'm like, wow, that was interesting that you said that. What's that about? And you start peeling back the levels of everything. So yeah, they could definitely heal faster. And when I do tandem sessions and multiples with certainly when I did all the case studies, I would notice that the animal healed very quickly, and then the person's, okay, now I'm ready. Let's just do me. My dog is fine. My cat is fine, whatever. Let's just focus on me, because I realize now that I've been having codependent relationships with every woman I've been with, or every, whatever. And so we need a little bit more time usually than what the animals do. Maybe it's in some level their lives aren't as long, as ours. We have a little bit more time. Who knows? I'm sure there's all kinds of factors as to how that manifests and why.
Yeah. Maybe it's because we kind of want to get rid of our emotional wounds as fast as possible, so we kind of don't deal with it and
Right.
don't give it the process or the time that it's needed. So we kind of suppress it instead of process it, right?
So true. Yes. Yes. And I'm sure you have too. I get people who call and they're like, I'm ready to release it all today. And I said, I'm sure that you are, but we're going to be also dealing with the parts of you that are really scared to release it. And the more that we can honor their timing and process, the faster this is going to go. Because if not, if we're just shutting it down, then we're not listening to the parts of us that need something from our adult inner parents to heal. Yeah. And so we're very complex beings.
Yeah. When we talk about illnesses, does it mean that when I have, for example, diabetes or problems with my back or whatever illness I could have, does it mean that my dog, my cat, my horse, whatever animal I have to have it as well? Or how does this?
No, not all the time. I mean, that's a physical, I call that a physical wound, soul contract. And sometimes we need those mirrors, those types of physical mirrors, to see something about ourselves more differently. And I mean, they are on their path as well. They are healing their stuff as well. They did come in to evolve. They're not all about, let me do it for her or him. I mean, they are trying to heal. We are partnering together. They just tend to be a little bit faster. So yes, sometimes it is where they are mirroring these same wounds. But I know for myself, when I first started on this path, I was on 8 medications that I thought I'd be on the rest of my life. Had, I don't know, maybe a dozen surgeries at that point even. It had been things had really been showing up for me physically. And of course, it was the same for my animals. Things were really showing up for my animals. I was at the vet all the time with my animals. And then as soon as I realized what was going on, and I started really diving into my inner healing journey, my animals just, their issues just went away, as did mine. And I was off of all those medications I thought I'd be on forever by just finding the support that I needed and the therapist that I needed and the energy work that I needed and all those things that that I decided to do for myself and for my animals. That really motivated me when I saw that my animals would feel better the more inner work that I did. And that in and of itself said, well, shoot, I don't want them to be carrying this stuff for me. So let me work on me so there'll be less for them to absorb. And then it can just be these little nuances they have of showing me something about myself. I'm like, thank you. Yes, yes, you're right. I have some anger I need to move out. I'm going to go take time, move that out in a healthy way. Thank you for showing that to me. And now I'm at the vet hardly ever. It's very rare. And for myself at the doctor too. So I'm grateful for that.
It's amazing. I have very similar experience.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, just heal yourself and you heal your animal.
Yes.
Yeah. Why? Oh, we were talking about the physical, but how about the behavior? Because very often we kind of like don't like some kind of behavior of our animal. Is it the same with behavior?
Well, those behaviors can, there's a lot of different levels to each thing. So the behaviors could be one of those times where they're triggering you into an emotion. They see that you're repressing. And again, it's not as if they're saying, oh, she's got anger, let me do this. It's more they're responding to the energy. They're sensing the energy, and you're calling in them doing a behavior that's going to help you to recognize something that you have bottled up within you. There's that option. And then a lot of times they are mirroring our behavior. Sometimes if you both have betrayal in your background, if there's a lot of betrayal, those can be the reactors a lot of the time, very loud. Those are the barking dogs at the fence, the protectors, I call them. And a lot of times that's going to be mirroring a person as well, where they're kind of loud and the world is an awful place and I have to fix the world. And if I don't speak up, then nobody will. And there's all of these things that go, I know more, and they're going to be mirroring them literally. So that's another option for the behaviors. But it depends on the behavior. If you have something specific, like if they, a lot of times if they are, I'm thinking of the cats, or if they're piddlers, if they will pee outside the box or something, that ends up being usually triggering their people into releasing anger, because the bladder is so much about anger. That's why we say, at least our term anyway, is say pissed off. And
Yes.
yeah, and so that can be a sign that you need to move out something. But sometimes it's also passive aggressive, and where the animal is being over controlled, and they don't feel the freedom to be able to express. And that's usually mirroring something within their human as well, where they were over controlled by a parent and weren't able to express themselves. And so they learned that they had to be passive aggressive to get their needs met. Or they wouldn't, because every time they were direct, they got hit, or they got, something happened that was negative, and they had to get in alignment. So they learned other ways to get their needs met. And a lot of times those same people will then over control their animal, because that's what they were modeled. And I remember one time at a workshop where someone, when we talked about it's called the sensitive one profile, and I was teaching about that profile that night. And by the next week, she came in and she says, well, I'm here to tell you that my little dog that can't get up on the bed on its own, that I usually put on the bed every single night when we go to bed. She said, I finally went back and did what you said, and I asked it whether or not he wanted to get up on the bed, and to let me know, to give him a choice versus just assuming I know what they want. And he didn't want to get on the bed, and he was fine all night long. And she goes, I feel awful that I've been making him get on the bed when he didn't want to. And sometimes we'll do that. So when we inadvertently, it's not coming from a negative place, of course, as we do the best that we can. Sometimes we are not giving them choices in the way that we need to give ourselves choices and be okay with our sensitivities. And if not, sometimes they'll be passive aggressive with their behavior. And then that will make us mad. You know, they're like, well, who's doing that? Or which one is it? Or why are they doing that? And they're giving us a message that that they want the freedom to make their own choice. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, you answered already my next question. Why is necessary to give animal the choice? But where is the difference between giving the animal choice? But immediately came to my mind that there are people who kind of don't put the borders, where it's unhealthy kind of choice. So where is the difference between pushing the animals in something that it's unpleasant for the animal and encouraging the animal? I'm not sure if I'm clear in what I mean, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not sure I would
kind of
be
spoiling the animal. Some people kind of like
okay.
spoil the animal, and
Yeah,
don't give it any borders, or any
yeah.
where is the border, where not to go. And on the other hand, people want to have control over the animal. So where is the
It's a fine line, and each situation is going to be a little bit different depending on that person's mix of their emotional wounding. So so you try things, just to see, and you really go inside to your heart and get connected and try to connect with them heart to heart, soul to soul, from a very pure, loving space, not from a need to know, not from a need to control, not from moving out your anger on them or anything like that. It's just connect with them to higher self and feel the love. And then you'll have more clarity around the decisions you make. And something might come to you around, when you do those connections and drop to your heart and imagine a golden cord of light between your heart and theirs and just feel the love. That's all you have to do is feel the love. And then sometimes you'll just have that awareness of, oh, I think I'm doing this, or I think you'll get that clarity in a different way. It's not as if there's going to be, well, if they're raising their hoof and they're doing this, you do that. There's not going to be that situation when healing the emotional wounds. You're going to be wanting to kind of surmise the higher perspective of when they're doing it, how they're doing it. Do they do it only when you come in and you're stressed? There's just a lot of different factors that can go into play. If you have an example of something specific that I can give you some advice or some what I've seen happen in those situations.
no any specific situation. It just the other day in apothec, I met a lady who needed to heal her dog. He had some problems with tail, and she said, "Well, he's so spoiled. I'm unable to kind of do with the tail something." And that's why it helped me, because there are situations where we need to somehow deal with the actual situation,
Yeah.
no matter whether the animal wants it or doesn't, because it's the healthy stuff. So where is the border, kind of giving the choice and do
Ah,
what's necessary to be done?
yeah. Well, when it's necessary, where you have to do it, you come in there from a guilt-free place. And that's where a lot of people, what I see, they come in with, I feel guilty. I have to put them in the crate, or I have to do this, and they don't want to do that. And I feel guilty, and I have regrets because I made them do this, or whatever it is. And they hate going to the vet, and I have to take them to the vet, and I feel guilty. I'm making them do this thing. No, if it's in their highest and best, you really try to deal with that guilt thing and just say, no, 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 I have to be the parent. I have to be the parent, because what happens is we relate to them. We relate to how many times we were told we had to do something that we didn't want to do. And we want to be their friend and we want them to love us no matter what. But there is that, being the parent and saying, okay, this is what I have to do, dude. This is, and sometimes I'll negotiate with them. I've had animals who I negotiate, okay, if you let me trim these claws, then we'll play with your favorite toy for 5 minutes. And it's funny, I had a cat at one time where she hated to get her nails trimmed. I mean, she was like, she'd go into those gutter, cries. And I would say, well, just give me 3 nails. Let me do 3, and then we'll play with your toy. And if I would try to sneak in that 4th one, she would go ballistic. And she would know. Finally, we'd negotiate, and I'd pull out the toy. I would certainly uphold my end of the bargain that we created. And so sometimes they have their personalities too, and their stuff and their fears. I mean, in that case with her, she had a really bad vet experience early in her life where it was very painful. And so when coming at her in that way, it would start bringing that up for her. She had a memory in there that maybe other animals wouldn't. So I did have to walk, tread lightly to help her to appease that. And we did get to the point where I could do her nails, of course. But in the meantime, she had fear around it, and it would show up in aggression. So losing the guilt, I say that a lot to clients when you're doing something that that they have to, you have to do and taking care of them. It's part of it. Then either, just come in with no guilt and say, this is what we have to do, dude, and not apologize for it. Just say, here's what we do. I have to do the same thing. And so this is what we're going to do now. And thank you so much for understanding and for your patience. And let's just get her done, and just come in there with a really grounded feel, ground yourself, maybe close your eyes, tap your heels, get grounded in, lose the guilt. The guilt is usually a pattern that goes back to childhood, and it really does interfere with those moments. So I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people that have animals get really guilty around doing something with their animal that needs to get done.
Yeah, and usually when there's the guilt, the animal does not cooperate.
Right. They feel that, and then they resist it, and then it's all, the energy gets very yucky. And they do it more because we are afraid they're going to do it, and then they do it, and and we have guilt around it, and then that goes into when we have guilt to something, it gives the other person the power. It gives the other being the power, our power, when we feel guilty. And so then all of a sudden the animal has the power to say, nope, I don't want to do that, and watch this. But if we come in from a grounded knowing, I mean, that's what so many trainers are about. You come in with this being centered in and of yourself, and your animal picks up on that energy. So when we have a lot of guilt, then go, oh, I notice I have guilt. Let me work on that. Let me heal that. Let me go. A lot of times that can go back to it was modeled by a parent or through their religion or all kinds of things that are factors.
Yeah. You often talk about higher purpose. People often talk about similarity of their health issues with issues of the animals. Do you think that, and we were talking about that, do you think that sometimes it's the higher purpose of the animal, and the animal knows that it's let's say a soul path, so they have to go through some illness or through some transformation, or is it just the mirroring?
It's both. It's their higher self knows what they signed up to do, as it does ours. And so that's why we try to get to that witness, to that observer, to that higher perspective. When we can witness what's happening, it's a different kind of energy than when we're enmeshed with it and trying to figure it out. The figuring it out is never going to fly. And I hear this term all the time. Well, if I can just figure it out. And I get people who will make an appointment with me and they'll go, well, I just want to know so I can understand. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you rather just heal it? Can we just heal it? Or is that too scary to go there? And that desire to stay in the head is so strong because we grow up knowing that if I can stay in my head, it's less painful. And some part of our psyche believes that. But I always say feel it out versus figure it out. That once we begin to trust that feeling will not be too much for our psyche, will not be too much for us, then we can live more from our heart, which allows us to see and experience the higher perspective of whatever's happening with your animal. You'll see that when they only urinate on, a certain thing, what it means more. You'll understand. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Every time my spouse lays on that pillow, I get mad that they're laying there. Or, you know what I mean? There's some higher perspective to their actions. And repeatedly, time and time again, too many to count, once the person understands, oh, I got it, they're doing that because of this, the animal just stops the behavior or the physical issue goes away. So, and again, and of course, some of the physical issues, they will be supporting our healing. Often when I remember, because I do my sessions on the phone, I'm not seeing the person, I'm not seeing the animal, and I prefer it that way. I prefer to just trust it because I trust the energy more. That if I can tune into the energy, I'm going to get the real story. And I would often I'm thinking of an example of someone who had called and said, this is so strange. My animal all of a sudden won't walk, and he has a hip problem, and I've taken to the vet, and they said everything is fine, and they have this issue, and when I connect to the animal, I'm feeling all of this congested energy there that just completely gets lifted, and then. But and I call back because I hang up and then I call back and I call back and I remember that particular woman. She goes, well, the animal, my dog's up now and it's walking. And I said, are you having any hip issues? Because I get the sense that it wasn't his issues, it was yours. Well, yeah, I just had hip surgery. It's like, oh, well, you just had hip surgery and all of a sudden your animal couldn't walk. And then we cleared it and now he can. So yes, of course, they want to help us. And so you thank them, not feel guilty about what they're doing, not feel badly that they're doing it. Just say, thank you. I'm going to work on my own stuff now. And I'm going to do what I can. And it's going to be a process. But thank you for showing it to me. And don't get mad at them that they want to help you, that they want to carry it for you. And don't feel guilty as much as possible. Just kind of go, oh, okay, got it. I'm going to focus on me and know that it won't be too much for you.
I love that. Thank you for the words, because it's so easy. Just say thank you for what you're doing for me.
Yes.
Just accepting and it's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh, they're serving us. We don't want to, we block them from evolving. They evolve because they're serving us. We don't have to feel guilty about that. We can just get the message, the higher perspective, which I love, get the higher perspective of what's happening and go, oh, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about soul contracts. And in your second book called Animal Soul Contracts, Sacred Agreements for Shared Evolution, you dive deeply in this topic. For someone hearing about the soul contracts for the first time, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, well, our souls, our higher selves, our souls did absolutely agree to come together with an agenda, with reasons to partner, to heal and evolve together. And there are many different ways, and we've talked about a lot of them already for the things that we did agree to do together. And the big one, of course, being to heal our emotional wounding together. That's one of the soul contracts that we can have, to do these things together. They're beautifully orchestrated. We can trust that our souls that everything is unfolding as our souls intended for us partnering with them. And by waking up to the fact that that's exactly what we are doing, and that there are these soul contracts and there are reasons and things that we're wanting to do together, once we realize that's happening, then we're going to start noticing it more. We're going to start leaning into it more. We're going to start more of those thank yous by just saying, oh, okay, I probably have a soul contract with them to do this or do that. And it's a beautiful thing. Our souls are evolving together. And for many people who have had a lot of trauma and abuse in their backgrounds, and it's not as safe to partner with people to do a lot of their inner work, then the animals really come into our lives because we let them in, they're safer. And yet we are still wanting to heal and grow and evolve. So, of course, we have lined up these partnerships with animals to continue to do that. And we can honor them by saying, yes, I want to lean into why we came together so that we can both reach our goals for what we wanted to do together.
Yeah. And are these contracts somehow, let's fixed, or can they change through the life?
Oh, sure. There are different types of contract. There's some short-term ones, some long-term ones, and new ones that are coming up all the time that are maybe small symbolism ones where that can help you through different in the moment decisions. The symbolic soul contracts are one of my favorite, and I'll try to think of an example so you can. I remember one time my cat, Mai Tai, I was at the time I had started this business, but I would still have my other business to have the supplemental income, right? And in that business, I was a recruiter, and there were these very big deals that I would work on, and sometimes at the last minute they would break apart, and you'd work for all of these months on this deal, and you get nothing, right? And so the closer it gets to closing the deal, for the person getting hired, um, there's all of these things that might come up. And I remember one day where this one deal and I'd been doing it and I was pretty good at what I did. And the deal just went south. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's no other, it's done. It's done deal. I didn't get it. And it's a big deal because you really almost counting the money and and the bills are going to pay off and all those things when this comes through. And I walk out into the living room. I just kind of wanted to cry and I didn't, but I was so upset. And I look, and my cat, Mai Tai, for the first time ever, and at that point he was probably, I don't know, 12 years old, he was trying to get to a place that he'd never tried to get to before, which that in and of itself got my attention. That's one of the ways that that there's something happening, if they're doing something really different that they haven't before. He was trying to get to the top of this armoire, and I'm like, thinking, dude, what are you doing? But I'm just kind of watching him do this, and he's trying to climb on this side and go to the fireplace mantle, and then sometimes he's falling, and he's not hurting himself. And then he gets up, and he's so focused on getting to the top. And I just kept watching him, and finally he got it. He got to the top of the chair, did this, and he got up there, and then he just kind of laid down and started grooming himself like this was the whole plan. And then I looked at him like, "What is your message for me?" And then all of a sudden I thought, there's another way that I haven't tried to reach it, the goal. I'm like, I think I'm missing something, because he kept trying all these different ways that didn't work. And so I went back in and I said a meditation, and I had an idea. I'm like, oh, let me do this. And I went back in, and the deal worked. And that happened. And yes, that was absolutely orchestrated by I believe that wholeheartedly. It's the first time he'd ever done that. So when they do something out of the ordinary like that, they're trying to get your attention for a reason. Mm-hmm. And once I got that, all of a sudden it went through. It's interesting, isn't it? So there's all kinds of different soul contracts. Some of them will do for many lives together. Sometimes they'll be I get a lot of questions of, well, when our soul contracts are completed, will they transition? Because I don't want them to transition, so I'm not going to do that with them. I'm like, no, we can get new soul contracts all the time. They're always navigating in the heart of our relationships with our animals. So some of them we do accomplish, and then new ones are all of a sudden on the platter, on the menu for what we're next wanting to do together.
Mm-hmm. And do you have experience with soul contracts with the wild animals, or perhaps the land? Because sometimes you can see people who kind of were born to some land and they take care of the land. Is that also some kind of soul contract?
Of course. Yes. Yeah, and sometimes they're karmic agreements. Who knows what we did to the land in other lives, or what we did to wild animals in other lifetimes, where we are making amends this go around. I'm assuming anyway that I've done all kinds of things that I, am not proud of in other lifetimes. That now I'm awake enough to understand this beautiful connection with the animal kingdom and to pay them back for all that they've done for me over the years. Yes. So yes, and we'll get those same messages, the same symbolic messages from animals in the wild if we are awake to it. We notice an animal that again is doing something maybe that is out of the ordinary, or lands on our shoulder or something big, there's a message for us in the actions, be it an insect or a winged one or whatever it is, or the land or a tree or whatever. Every time I know a big branch would fall off of one of the trees, I know I'm letting go of something that is no longer needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the nature, the animals, they communicate with us in different kind of ways. Just
Yeah.
not only symbolic, but also actually that something happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes they're really needing us to take action on their behalf. And there might be a karmic soul contract to help that tree or those animals or that area or the land. And I think it is important for us to be doing what we can to, even if it's just recycling or we start taking steps where we can to make the world a better place, a safer place for future generations.
Mm, yeah. Tell me, if there was one thing you wish every person understood about animals before we finish today's conversation, what it would be?
Mm. Well, that they are cheering you on always, that they are always wanting you to embrace your best self and and see the best in yourself that they already see, and you would honor them by doing just that, by looking in the mirror and see what beauty they see in you.
Thank you. It was beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for all you shared with us. And thank you for your time you gave us. Thank you, Tammy.
Welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here.